aware of it before getting the printout. And they're not actually all within that amount.
Will you make a couple more copies of that? Yes.
No. No, they're gonna look at the bills.
$8,000 for the early voting?
Yeah, but that's cheap compared to what it would cost us.
Oh, no, I
To
understand.
do it
Yeah.
ourselves, yeah. That's for the whole year though, not just for the first.
Oh, okay,
So it's all 3 elections.
right. That's crazy. Just crazy how they have that many days so many days prior to the election.
Oh, I would say if we had to do it ourselves, it'd be double at least.
Oh,
It would probably be $8,000 a time
yeah,
Yeah.
for us to do it.
right. Yeah, because you have to have special machines, don't you? The special, yeah.
And printers, because it's ballots on demand
And workers and all that, yeah.
and
All
by
right,
going down to one precinct,
so these bills were paid ahead of time.
yes, they were
We'll
due
keep-
before
we'll
this
do this
meeting.
pile and then we'll put.
That was authorized though.
This was
That
authorized
was
through a
authorized,
township board
yes.
meeting, yes. That's
Yeah.
that marker.
That's the
Yeah,
mark.
that was authorized.
There. So, that's authorized.
So this was some hall supplies through.
And that, there would have been a penalty had we waited to pay that after today.
This is fire department fuel.
Which is a regular, I think that got, approved just by a copy.
It was never on our journal.
No? Okay.
The fire department fuel.
Yep, never on the journal.
Well, it is a regular monthly.
The purchase policy is not the same as
No, the post,
expenditures.
pre-audit policy, the post-audit
That's
policy.
As a
actually,
result, we removed that. We actually said that in order to pay a bill, if you would like me to remind you, we had much debate in reference to that, and that's why we used to send out, when there was a cluster of 4 or 5 items, as a soft for the reply of the trustees, because we are a general law township. And general law means all of the trustees weigh in, because the trustees are the ones responsible.
So, I need to send this stuff to you before we pay everything?
that's how we've been doing it for the longest time. I don't understand why it wasn't done this way. It's how it's always been, and we've always
I
responded.
didn't pay these this time.
That's how it's always been done, and we respond to that when we're built, right? We'll ask questions and,
Okay.
what is this? What is
Well, I
this?
thought like the ones that are normal, like some of these are not normal every month
Exactly.
ones, but
Yeah.
Suburban Propane Visual Edge. Although I think Visual Edge, didn't we have
I
it?
think Visual Ed was on there.
Was on
It
there?
just hadn't been paid. and the
Okay,
rest
yeah,
of
we
them were on
didn't get the
12.
actual bill. So those two were on there. Post office,
And this was the surveillance camera. We agreed to pay for half of it when we approved the camera.
Well, we approved the camera.
The purchase.
Right, so we, and the purchase was paying half of it up front. So that's what we did, we paid half of it. And this was postage.
That was the one that's what, 700-800?
$788 that we paid to get the absentee ballot letters out. I got mine in the mail today. You gonna
That
look at these
also
bills,
had-
or what are you gonna do
Yeah.
here?
deadline.
I have been looking at those bills.
Okay,
Did you have the minutes from that special meeting? Are they in that packet?
No,
I
they're
didn't
not.
see it.
No, yeah, I
I
did.
got
Because-
them in today, so will have to be approved in February.
That, we can't do that, because we've already had a meeting, and that is more than the number of
So
days.
we don't approve them in February, they're already approved.
without
So
us
you can just
making-
print them and hand them out tonight, since if you're
I'll
gonna,
print them and hand them out tomorrow. I just got them this afternoon, so I haven't looked at them.
well, the moral of that issue is, that would have explained this, and then we wouldn't even have had any of the debate we just had. That's all. No big deal.
It wasn't too tough for me to explain that we approved this camera.
We approved the camera, we approved to do the expenditure, that was kind of the question, and the minutes would have
And then we
depicted it.
approved the camera, we approved to pay 50% of it.
So that was two different motions?
No, we approved the camera. I don't know if we paid, if it was in the motion to pay 50%. but To
Well,
get the
we
camera,
mentioned
we
the
paid
camera.
50%.
If we approve the whole camera, I mean, does it make a difference if we paid half or all of it?
It does as far as it being a bill that's being paid, because we've approved lots of different things, and then when the bill comes in, it still comes through bill payment, because the check is then being sent out.
But this camera's for the ballot box, and we're kind of in a timeline to get that up and running
Right.
before the
Because
ballot.
the next day I ordered this camera after we voted on it, and they're coming the 19th to put it in.
17th, I hope.
And I think
They
it's,
change it?
no, I think it's the 19th. I'll have to look. It's either the 17th or the 19th, I don't know which.
It's the 17th.
And then this was postage to send out
I
the,
mean, it's up to you, you can do it that way, but both of those covered.
Yeah, that's
absentee
what I
ballots
thought.
to be signed, send back to get absentee ballots.
Utility bills, phone
That
bills,
was
electric bills.
well outside of any justification, even if you were trying to do it with purchasing policy. That could have easily been sent, so that we understood the importance instead of a check just being issued. So saying that things have to be done in a certain amount of time doesn't change the process that is in place. The process that is in place is there for a reason. The process is so that everything is done consistently, so nobody is surprised by anything. By paying bills without following the process we've been following for months and months and months, and sliding that money out real quick, whatever justification, whether it's timeline, or it's the amount, or it's the consistency at which we receive these bills, we're changing the
There's
process.
no ill intent to be paying
Nor
these
did I just
bills.
say that. I
It's
said
no
the
secret,
process.
it's no,
The process is there for a reason. It's a process that we've been following for months and months and months.
Okay, but we had a process that we were following for
This
years and
post-audit
years, as far as I
thing.
know, when it came to like sewer, you know, giving people sewer relief, and we decided to switch that up too. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but to use that as an example, that this is what we've done for months and months and months, well,
Because
We actually, as a whole board, sat down and we voted on it, and we changed that, because you have the responsibility as a treasurer, and she is a clerk, and Sam is a supervisor, and we both have a fiduciary responsibility to go through the bills. Plain and simple.
I don't have a problem with you going through
So,
the bills.
you know,
I don't
That's
want you to
why
think
we-
that I'm trying to sneak something
No,
under
and
here
nobody's
to
saying
get
that.
paid. That's
But
what
you
it's
know what?
sounding like though.
Well, that's not what's being said. What's being said is there's a process that we've been following. There's been several times that you have contacted us and said, hey, here's some bills that need to be paid, they're due on this date. And we respond to you, and we say, okay, and we'll ask questions if we have them with that opportunity, which is what we're supposed to have with our fiduciary responsibility, the opportunity to ask questions. We do that, and
And I
then you've
didn't
been
think
given
that I had to do
authorization.
that for the things like, that are every month, like
That's how
Visual
it's
Edge,
always
Suburban Propane.
We've received these ones that are monthly bills prior to this.
and some of the
So-
times they showed up late. And Molly would take a picture, send it, and say, hey, these guys just showed up.
Yep, and they're due on this date.
Okay, well, that apparently with all the voting stuff that we're trying to deal with and everything, apparently that got skipped. We've been pretty stressed about all that stuff.
Here is the accident fund for the insurance. 12,000. Account.
on that count. Group dividend, because lower claims.
So, I'm sorry, before we move on, Orkin pest control. We obviously had that on the agenda last month. It's on the agenda again tonight to have a conversation about it because we tabled it. What was this charge for? Because we were out of contract, right?
No, that's last year's contract.
That is the remainder of the balance. So when we, because they were asking us to pay it up front, right? And
We
would
did
get a
not pay
discount.
it, we did not get the discount.
Understood, but did we the year before, so it covered for the whole year?
Yes,
So was this a residual bill then for an amount that wasn't covered by the agreed upon contract that would have expired at the end?
that was, well, we paid them X amount and it covered us through October. So we had November and December that we had to pay, it was basically, but probably our contract, because we didn't renew with them.
Okay, so
So
this
isn't
is-
that November's or
It
December's?
says November 21st in the amount of $67.38.
Okay.
But the total amount paid was $134.76.
I would like to see the
So
rest
it was
of
for
this.
2 months.
I won't authorize the payment, because when I seen this come in, there's money on here of $670 or $680 roughly for the workers' comp for the janitor. And he's supposed to have his own workers' comp, so this bill should be less money.
I'm working on that with them.
So,
I have to, he has to sign a form, and I'm waiting for the guy from the insurance to send me that form to have all of our people sign it. Either they give us the workers' comp form, or they sign this waiver.
you can't
That's
sign
what
up.
he said to us.
If you're the business owner, you're not required to have workers' comp, but you are required to show that you have a commercial policy, period. Because if he can't show us, then we deduct the $680 out of his paycheck,
Well, the,
because he's not an
because I
employee.
asked, do you need a special workman's comp policy, or do you need just insurance liability coverage? Liability coverage doesn't cover it,
Doesn't
so.
cover workers' comp. They have to have insurance,
Didn't
because
you ask the insurance company?
we went through an insurance audit.
Are you an insurance man?
Believe it or not, I was licensed from Michigan, and I went to Michigan State University for it, and I have a degree in it. Would you like me to say more, sir?
No, but this is our insurance man that told us what we had to do.
I'm telling you, I would like to know, because last year,
Well,
we
what-
got hooked paying workers' comp on people, and this
and
year,
I've got their,
that can't happen.
I've got liability policies on more of them than we had, but it didn't come through everybody's didn't come through with workers' comp.
So is the custodian employing people?
No, just himself.
So
So
I
he-
won't sign off on the workers' comp, or on the insurance policy unless it's absolutely sure what we have to pay. Because if we're gonna pay out that extra money now, with the hope that they're gonna cut us a check later, and they're gonna sit on our money, no. Last year we got burned, we're not getting burned this year.
Right, that's why I'm working on it.
So if he is a sole proprietor,
Mhm.
and I understand he's gotten himself an LLC, as a sole proprietor with no employees, although I understand sometimes his wife comes and helps. Isn't that what we've discussed before, that his wife comes to
He
help
may,
sometimes?
well, when he's in the hospital, she'll come and do it,
Well, then technically,
still, him.
If she's not
Well,
a
we're not
partner,
cutting the check to her.
that's,
well,
So
you're
whatever he
cutting the
does
check.
with his check is,
That's the point I'm making. If he has people working for him, then that changes his requirement for
and
workers'
he's
comp.
required to have it, or he's.
If he's a
he can pay
sole
us.
proprietor and he doesn't have anybody else working under him, then it would be liability. He only has to have workers' comp if he has workers. That's where I am asking this question. If he has other people that are coming in and doing the work, that would be workers' comp, because our liability wouldn't cover this. And before you were here, we had this same discussion with another gentleman that was doing the custodial work, and I came in here to get some paperwork one night, I think it was after a meeting at the hall, and I walked in and it was he and his wife cleaning, and I asked them, because that's a liability issue for us. If we're covering him and he's the employee and she's in here and she gets hurt, if she slips on the floor when they're mopping, right? that becomes a liability issue for us that we need to further understand, because we're exposing the people of the township to a liability. I mean, that's gonna come out of the people's pockets ultimately. They're the ones that pay us, that pay for this building, that pay for the custodial service. So I asked that question before for this very reason. After that happened, when we got this bill last year, we had this same discussion, and Greg was supposed to pursue everybody to get
Bunch of those people came off of
liability.
there.
We did have some that came off, but we had asked, what is the holdup with getting this? Because, technically, if they're a 1099 employee, and they're required to have this as part of their employment, which is how it should have always been, then they don't produce it, they don't get a paycheck. That's how that works.
Period.
You don't get a paycheck if you don't produce what you're required to have, which is liability coverage, because we are not responsible for liability when you're a 1099 employee. And when you play in this area with 1099 employees, the IRS gets pretty pissy. They get pretty pissy about it because they see it as a benefit to the employer.
Which was the township last year, and we can be responsible for all of his social security, both our share of it, just like we paid the other. If the IRS walked in here today, anybody that's a 1099, if we don't have their comp documents, they're an employee. And if they're an employee, we're on the hook. And if
Absolutely.
we're gonna be on the hook, then
The benefit to having an employee, because it comes with additional
you can
costs.
tell them what to do.
The benefit is you can tell them what to do. You can tell them when to be here. You can tell them everything, right? But when it's a 1099, there's a lot more freedom on the part of the 1099 employee, because they can determine their own hours. They can determine when they fulfill the contract,
Right.
okay? But when you try to control them, or if you treat them as an employee, the IRS gets pretty bent out of shape. So we, as a township, need to be very clear on the lines of demarcation when it comes to who's an employee and who's a 1099 contractor. They're two very different things, and they have to be treated very differently.
Okay.
So as employees, we're covered with liability provided by the township. If it is a 1099 contractor covered by our liability, they become our employee, and then we have to go back and pay all of those back expenses because we were treating them as a contractor when we were also treating them as an employer. As an employee. IRS gets real bent out of shape about that. This is why we've been asking about it for so long.
I do have the liability for it, which was, I don't know, $500 or $600 or $800 for the year.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive, ultimately.
Well, if you're making $15.50 an hour, that's a whole lot of months
Where's
that
the
you're
journal?
gonna,
Because I don't have
it's probably in your
It was
mailbox.
in your mailbox.
Yep, there.
I mean, that might be something he's gonna consider too. So we might be looking for a new candidate. but-
Well, I think that would give us a nice opportunity to actually have a more consistent job description.
So what you're saying
as
is,
well.
until he comes up with workman's comp,
If he has employees. If he doesn't have employees and he's a sole proprietor, then he doesn't have to
No big
provide
deal.
it.
He doesn't,
well,
he says he doesn't have employees.
If he personally does not come in and do the cleaning, and if Joe Schmo walks in here and does the cleaning, and let's get stupid and say somebody decides to come, because we are looking at cameras, because we want to make sure we're safe, and somebody decides to come up and hit him on the head as he's leaving this building, guess what?
That's on us.
We're on it. It's all over us and nobody else.
So there is a lot of liability related to this, not just having that
Something happens
liability
to
coverage.
computers, and you don't know,
Well, and I think that we need to be aware of that as well, because if there's a question about whether or not he employs people, there is stuff left on the desk, right? There is
Checks.
the ability to
Stop,
actually
stop,
get into
stop,
stuff.
stop,
We don't know
stop,
who's in
stop.
here.
So the question is, if he doesn't have disability insurance,
workers' comp.
workers' comp, he stops working for us, we stop paying him until he gets it.
I believe Charlie's stance was, we don't pay this until we know that this is an
Turn the
accurate
thing
amount.
off. I don't want it ringing during the meeting either.
It normally
It's
doesn't.
going. It normally does.
You know what, Sam? That's your prerogative.
Well, it's going.
You touch it, you broke the law, and I will call the cops.
Good. He
End
didn't
of
even show up
discussion.
tonight.
That's great.
So put those with this.
wanna look at those, or I wouldn't have put them there. Excuse me.
We've been here 20 minutes. You looked at them. I gave them to you first.
I understand. Now understand me.
They aren't on this.
They're on this one.
Yes. That was part of this.
Wasn't there? How can I check it out?
This ain't yours.
Well, I would like one. Is that too much to ask?
We'll get it on. So,
So they
let's go back to the road commission.
Okay,
That one.
okay.
That road we had chip and sealed. And, or not chip and sealed, they ground it and shaped it and put 4 inches of gravel on it. And they come in about $5,000, $6,000 below what they said they was gonna do. Now, next year we get 2 chip and seals on it. But the culvert needed fixed, that crossed River Road. And
Okay.
that was the price, our portion of it, to put the culvert in. And I said, well, because you come in below for the chip and, or for the grinding and shaping that we approved, there's still money there to pay that in what we've approved for that road to be ground and shaped for chip and seal next year.
So this was done by Jensen, not the road commission?
No, it was done by the road commission, but they bought the tube from Jensen.
Okay.
This is one of our road patrols, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, this is the $8,000 for the election. So this will be on that one.
This was paid,
This is the $8,000 for the election.
but
All 3 elections.
I had found one
Now
that
and,
at the meeting approved,
uh,
paid the whole thing was
April.
approved.
Or no, I'm sorry.
August and
August
November.
and
And November.
There should be something again.
Here's supplies, and I bought some batteries. I don't know if that's on here or not.
To get
Yes, I bought a pack of batteries, so I could get the clock up and running. And we got some extra batteries in the back room there.
Said this doesn't cover it.
This is consumers.
Mhm.
Is hardware not paid in full last month?
I didn't hear you.
What?
Well, there's charge for the fire department is $6.99, which is listed here. And there's the batteries that Sam was talking about for $21.99, but the actual amount that it shows, the balance of kind of $62.94, was that not paid off last month?
Isn't there 3 of them there? I thought I
Missing
saw 3 of
something?
them.
Is there something? I missed when they were stuck together, thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying not to